Hi there. We are going to talk about races format, and you are going to use this all year, and you'll use it as you respond to short pieces of text um, all year now, and you'll use it in high school just because it's a great way to format your responses, and it is a great way to get textual evidence in your responses. So before we go into how to write this, I just wanted to show you really quick what races stands for. Okay, so the R stands for restate the prompt. Okay, so you're going to be given a question. You're going to start your paragraph by restating the prompt. The A stands for answer the question. Okay, so whatever the prompt is, you're going to answer it. Okay, after you restate it, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. The C stands for cite textual evidence. And we're going to suggest that you use 2 to 3 pieces of evidence just because that's really going to make your response strong. The E stands for explain your evidence. This explanation has to be so strong. Make a connection with it. Make it so that the evidence is relevant. You want to make sure that your explanation is so strong that you are using your own words to talk about what you are reading. And then the last thing is sum it up. So summing it up means bringing it back to what you were being asked. Okay, so let's take a look. The prompt that we are given is Gary Soto. So we just read 7th grade. It was on Common Lit. And it says, Gary Soto is the author of 7th grade. This short story fits into the genre of realistic fiction. Okay, so it says, explain why this text is considered part of this genre. So why is this text considered realistic fiction? Using 1 or 2 of the following characteristics from genre notes and evidence from the short story. Okay, so we're going to use our genre notes page that we got in class, and we're going to cite that evidence, and then we are also going to cite 1 or 2 pieces of evidence from the story. Okay? So what I did here was I did a little screenshot of the genre notes that we did in class, and it says, realistic fiction is imaginative writing that reflects life as it could be lived today. Everything in a realistic fiction story could actually happen to real people living in today's world. Realistic fiction helps people move toward a fuller understanding of themselves and others. Okay, so that's what we talked about yesterday when we talked about realistic fiction. So we're going to start our response by restating the prompt. Okay, so we're going to restate the prompt, and we're going to say 7th, I don't want it to be bold, 7th grade by Gary Soto is considered to be realistic fiction because, so there's the prompt, and now I have to answer it. So here's my A, answer the question. So your topic sentence of your paragraph is going to be RA. Okay, so let's talk about why is it realistic fiction? Well, we know that realistic fiction seems real because, so we'll say it's considered realistic fiction because the characters in the story experience things that could happen in real life. Okay, so my R and my A, those are done. My R and my A is done. Okay, so my R will make this the yellow. My A will make this green. So here's my R. This is yellow. And this is green. Okay, so now I need to find some evidence. So I'm going to use evidence from genre notes, and I'm going to use evidence from the story. Okay, so you'll start this with like a sentence framer. So we'll say like in the text genre notes, it states, and I think this one here, everything in a realistic fiction story could actually happen in real people living in today's world. I think that one kind of sums up everything. So that's the one we're going to use. So it states everything in a realistic fiction story could actually happen to real people living in today's world. So there's my one piece of evidence, right? One of my pieces of evidence, but now I'm going to support that with what happened in 7th grade. So in the short story, I'll say, for example, in the short story, Soto writes, and then I'm going to put in the evidence from Common Lit. I'm going to go grab that really quick. I'm going to take a piece from paragraph 13 where it says, the principal, Mr. Belton, spoke over the loudspeaker, welcoming students to a new year, new experiences, and new friendships. The students squirmed in their chairs and ignored him as they were anxious to go to first period. So I'm going to borrow that one there. So we'll say the students squirmed in their chairs. Squirmed in their chairs and ignored him. They were anxious to go to first period. And ignored him. They were anxious to go to first period. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain it. Okay. So I'll say, we have all experienced first days of school before. It is very realistic to feel anxious as the day begins, just like the characters did in the short story. So as you can see, there's my explanation. So I have, this is evidence here from genre notes, right? I have evidence from genre notes. I have evidence from the short story right here, for example. And then I explain my evidence. So here's my explanation. Do a different color here. Running out of colors. So we'll make my citing textual evidence was purple. My explaining of my evidence was blue. Okay. And now I'm going to add one more piece of evidence just to really make sure. So I'm going to add one more piece of evidence, explain it, and then wrap it back up. Okay. So if I go back to the story, I know I found something at the end where he said, he couldn't stand to look at Teresa. He was sweaty with shame. So that was in paragraph 58. He couldn't stand to look at Teresa. He was sweaty with shame. So we'll say in the story, I don't want to be blue. In the story, the main character was nervous. And then I'll say at the end, he was, quote, sweaty with shame. And then I need to cite that. So that, that was paragraph 58. You can always do that at the end. Okay. Now I'm going to explain that again. So this is also extremely realistic because when we get embarrassed, a lot of times we sweat when we're nervous, right? The character was experiencing things that really happen in real life. As you can see, I took my explanation and I really connected it to the reader, to who I'm trying to explain this to, because the more connection that you have, the better it's going to be, the stronger your response is going to be. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this again, because this is evidence to prove that it's realistic fiction. And then I'm going to highlight this because this is my explanation that explains why that's a good piece of evidence. The very last thing I'm going to do is sum it up. Okay. When I sum it up, that just means that I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to make this one orange because I'm running out of colors. When I sum it up, that just means I'm bringing it back to the prompt. So the prompt was, why is this realistic fiction? How does it fit into this genre? Okay. So I'm going to use the title, right? And I'm going to explain it one last time. So as you can see, I've got lots of evidence. I've got good explanation. So I'm going to bring it back to the prompt by saying, in conclusion, 7th Grade by Gary Soto is a great example of realistic fiction because what happens to the characters can definitely happen in real life. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'll put this, you guys will have access to this video. Feel free to revisit this whenever. This is the same format. You're always going to restate the prompt. You're always going to answer the question. You're always going to cite evidence. And then your evidence needs to be explained, and it needs to be explained well. And then you'll always bring it back to the prompt. Okay. So feel free to revisit this whenever you need help. Pause it, revisit, look at how this is color coded, restate, answer, cite is purple, explain is blue, and then the orange at the end is to sum it back up to the prompt. Okay? If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. Thanks.